Ningen. The word in Japanese means human, but in recent years, it has also come to be associated with something else. A popular cryptid born out of the Nichan forums. It all started in 2002. On May 11th, a user going by the name Baito-kun, meaning a part-time worker, posted the following. If you're already familiar with the Ningen creepypasta, then feel free to skip ahead to the next section. The Japanese government carries out whaling research in the Antarctic, but they don't only capture whales to investigate. They apparently research and record some without capturing them as well. While carrying out this research, they apparently came across something several years back that they couldn't reveal to the public. I heard this directly from the source. The researchers involved nicknamed it the human-like creature. There are apparently several types. One that looks like a human with limbs. One that looks like two human upper torsos joined together, etc. There are all different sorts, and they appear in the water just like whales. Their bodies are completely white and measure dozens of meters in length. Apparently nobody had ever seen any before the whaling trips several years back. If they revealed this information to the public, then all of their whaling research until that point would have been questioned and turned on its head, so they were extremely bewildered. Although they've been keeping records, they apparently haven't been setting out on purpose to find them. They have to submit their schedules to the International Committee, so they're unable to deviate from that. You can tell other people about it, as long as you make it seem like it's just idle gossip. But whatever you do, don't say you heard it from me. Anyway, I think all the other guys have probably spoken about it as well, my source said. I didn't think it was alive. At first, I thought it was a submarine from somewhere, he continued. They don't approach ships, and if you try to get close, they dive down and swim away. But if you enlarge the pictures taken of them, you can see their faces seem smooth and flat, although they don't appear to be man-made. It might sound strange or like a fake story, but the details were so intricate that I listened as hard as I could. I think it's probably a kami-sama or something like that, he said. Setting aside the authenticity of the story, I really did hear it from him. That's not a joke. If there's anyone else out there who's also heard this story, please let me know. They apparently appear during summer, Japanese winter, and mostly at night. I remembered hearing that. Yet they don't carry out whaling research at night, so the person on duty has to wake the others up if they appear. If you take a photo of them, they just look like ice, or icebergs, floating in the water. They apparently can't get photos of them up close, and they're absolutely not allowed to release any of their photos taken while out researching anyway, apparently as a way of dealing with Greenpeace. The cameraman accompanying them on their research had apparently tried his best to get photos, but he wasn't able to get any good ones. Maybe he tried night cameras and infrared film, I don't know. I was thinking that the person who told me this story, I'll call him F-san hereafter, was maybe just making fun of me, but the details are oddly distinct, so it really grabbed my attention. F-san's back out on the ocean again. 3 days ago he got back on the boat, so they probably set out yesterday. So I won't be able to ask him anything for a while now. I'll write just a little more about what I heard. F-san told me this story the other morning, as I drove him back towards the boat. Odoru Dame Ningen by Kinniku Shoujo Tai was playing on the car radio, with the lyrics Dame Dame Dame, Dame Ningen, Ningen Ningen. Upon hearing that, F-san went, Ningen, Ningen. Huh. On that note, I bet you didn't know there are Ningen, people, in Antarctica. Huh? People? You mean the wintering teams? No, Ningen. I don't know if they're people, but there are strange creatures down there that we call Ningen. According to Efsan's story, they first saw them about 10 years ago. It was quite a while until they saw one again, but apparently it was the talk of the town. They were so taken aback that they didn't report it to any of the organizations above them. Then one of the scientists on board said, "Well, I don't know what it is, but why don't we at least collect the sightings of it?" Then they discovered that numerous people had seen them. The scientists were so happy. At first they were calling it Object X. Apparently none of the veteran whalers, before whaling had been made illegal, ever saw them. But in the last few years, they've become a hot topic. We'll probably hear about it on TV or something soon. But the authenticity of such a scientific study would probably come into doubt, so they said not to post about it while at work on any strange places. I think those strange places were probably referring to Nichan, where I'm writing now. 2 or 3 years back, we received an informal report that said, "From here on out, they will be referred to as human-shaped objects." So apparently in Japanese, it's not read as Jinkei Buttai or Ningyo Buttai. The correct reading of the term is Hitogata Buttai. But we just call them Ningen, Efsan said. And apparently, there are so many more whales in the Antarctic than we could ever imagine, and those numbers are growing by the year. Apparently there are so many that it's like they're going to fill up the entire ocean. And even though they know there are multiple times the numbers officially given, apparently the environmental groups and international organizations will only recognize the minimum number. So, for some reason, Efsan got really angry, saying, "There are too many whales now, so that's why we're seeing these strange things out there." Sorry this is a bit late, but I was able to talk to Efsan again. We didn't have much time, so we weren't able to speak much, but I was able to get some new information from him. Apparently the Ningen have eyes and mouths. They have 2 eyes and a black hole for a mouth, but they weren't able to see if they had a nose or anything like that. Because they have what looks like eyes and a mouth, they must be alive. But their bodies are massive and shine white like something inorganic. Still, their eyes apparently looked right at them. That's about it for all the new stuff. And I asked him about Evangelion, but he was just like, "Huh?" So, judging by his reaction, I'd say he doesn't know anything about that. If I get the chance to see him again soon, I'll come back and let you guys know. Basically, the Ningen are somewhat humanoid creatures that reside in Antarctica. They're mostly seen in the water, and they're massive, the size of whales, with shining white skin and, at the very least, eyes and a mouth. The original poster blames their existence on too many whales in the ocean, which doesn't really make a lot of sense no matter how you look at it. But there you go. So, are these cryptids real? If so, what are they? After this story of the Ningen was shared on Nichan, the Japanese occult magazine Mu picked up on it. Then they spread the story to the masses. It got so popular that it even reached overseas, and you can find all sorts of pages in English talking about it as well. Nichan is of course no stranger to starting modern urban legends, and many have come from there over the years. Ningen is no different, although it may be the first cryptid to spring to life from the boards. Numerous explanations have been given over the years for what this large white creature could be. Maybe it's a large sea turtle. Perhaps it's a whale carcass or blubber. Or it might be nothing more than a chunk of ice that happens to look vaguely humanoid in shape. Over time, various photoshops started to appear of the creature online, and some even claim to have found the creature floating off the coast of Namibia in Google Maps. This particular image is from well over a decade ago, so it's no longer visible on the current Google Maps, but the white section measured roughly 20 meters in length, which fits the size that the Ningen is supposed to be. There were initially suggestions that the creature was nothing more than a ripoff of Adam from Evangelion, who appears as a large white humanoid creature. The creepypasta itself even makes mention of this, perhaps to throw the heat off from claims that the story was merely copying a far more popular anime. Whether or not Evangelion inspired the story is unknown, but it's a possibility. There were also claims it might have been an umibozu, a Japanese yokai who appears in the oceans much like Ningen, but it's black rather than white. Perhaps this white version was an Antarctic counterpart to the traditional black Japanese umibozu. Like pretty much every other cryptid before it, no one has ever been able to give definitive proof that it exists. The fact that it emerged from the Nichan occult forums should be enough to let you know that the tale wasn't true to begin with. But once it got picked up by the occult magazine Moo a few years later, the creepypasta was somewhat legitimized in the eyes of the public. Was the creature inspired by a popular anime? Was the story itself the poster's way of fighting back against Japan being punished for whaling? This angle is little touched upon in the West, but the poster mentions quite staunchly that, according to his source, there are too many whales in the sea, far more than the official numbers claim, and he hints that it's because of this supposed surplus of whales that the Ningen have started to appear. It's possible this creepypasta was attempting to legitimize Japanese whaling. Japan has long been under fire for hunting whales for research purposes, while still serving whale flesh in restaurants today. Perhaps by claiming that the sea was actually full of whales, and their actual overpopulation was causing some strange creatures to appear, that would make hunting them okay again, because hey, you're just clearing out the monsters and there are plenty of them to go around anyway. There have certainly been stranger arguments on Nichan before, so it's a possibility, however slim. In the end, the Ningen creepypasta was one of the lucky few that got picked up by the mainstream media and then spread to the West. Whether you believe in cryptids or not is up to you, but the tale is undoubtedly little more than a Nichan creepypasta that just got lucky, rather than some startling revelation of the Japanese government hiding the existence of unknown creatures. Still, it makes for a good story either way. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you again next time.